a huge concern, and I want to put it directly on the table. Parliament is there to represent the people. We must make decisions on behalf of the people. We welcome input from everybody, whether it's oral, whether it's written submissions. People don't have to agree with us. I think this committee has a record. I think 2015, we took 5 months to deal with the 201 investigation into the top management of SAPS. And colleagues will remember that that wasn't a very popular process. Also in the relevant parties that is represented here today. And members of the committee came under huge pressure on various fronts. And that is a fact. But in the end, the Portfolio Committee on Police continued with that because we believe it's very important in terms of oversight and to ensure that the management of the police adhere to the Constitution and not become involved in other matters. So that's a principal approach I think we took along. Now in terms of this process, of course, it is a public matter of high public importance, and of course, all members are given advice on the matter. Of course, letters and of our colleagues, interested parties, will, of course, lobby us. Even this morning, I had a call from a senior member of my party who said this and that. So we maybe agreed or disagreed, but that is part of politics, part of the environment, and it's fine. But there is clearly a line, and I must really express my shock and dismay at some of the documents and WhatsApps that members of this committee received this last 72 hours. It is really totally unacceptable. Members can't be put under undue pressure on behalf of lobby groups or individuals. It can't be done. If people have got different views, they're welcome to bring those ideas and suggestions to the committee by way of submission. And of course we will differ, we will come to different views. But we're not a banana republic. We can't have a situation where decisions must be made, where threats are made against members. That is totally unacceptable. And it is very, very serious. So I'll give an opportunity also to members to come in, but I think we must address that point before we go to the main report. Thank you. Honourable Robert McBride.
No, thank you very much, Honourable Chair. It is extraordinary issue. It is extraordinary that is unheard of before. I don't know of any incident where such a thing has been done targeting members of a portfolio committee, member of parliament, and put it that way before.
Chairperson,
sorry.
I've got a suggestion that the email be read so that we all, that will be the best thing.
Yeah, Honourable Mark, of course members are, let's give Honourable Mlakane chance. You're welcome. Thank you.
Chair, maybe Honourable Marquez's point about reading the email, maybe it's better to do so, to put it in a context. If I then speak after that, I can allow Honourable Marquez to start with that.
With your permission.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Dear Honourable Bheki, the fact that your committee can be guided by criminals like Cele and Kabinde is of grave concern and has left us feeling there is more to this than meets the eye. As a result, Forensic for Justice have decided to carry out detailed forensic investigations on each and every member of your committee. You are requested to supply all their names and ID numbers, as well as their relevant register of members' interest disclosures. We will publish our findings on our website without fear or favor, as we are not prepared to stand by and watch Parliament start the ball rolling on state capture too. Your members should know they are not above the law, and it is time they are brought under control of the people who pay their salaries. I'm one of those. Best wishes, Paul O'Sullivan. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Ramplakani.
Chair, thank you very much, Honourable Mark. The point I was going to make on this, what you just said, is maybe just a few points. The first one is that the letter from the Paul O'Sullivan is a letter that threatened members of Parliament. It's a threaten. It's a letter that intimidates. It's a letter that seeks to dictate what members of Parliament should do or should not do, should say or should not say. In other words, members of Parliament now should be under the guide and control of Paul O'Sullivan on what they do in their day-to-day work of their committee. The subject matter that we are dealing with here is a subject matter that has been referred to this committee in terms of the Act. It's a matter that is being referred before the committee properly in terms of the rules of Parliament, as well as the judgment on the North High Court, Gauteng High Court. Now, for this to happen, obviously, it's an undermining of the Constitution. It's a serious issue of undermining of the Constitution of this country by one individual who seeks to divert members who are elected to serve in the manner in which he is doing. Clearly, Chair, my suggested way forward on this, it is a serious overstepping by Paul O'Sullivan, and we can't simply leave it here. He says we in the email. It means that there is a group of people who sit and look at what members of Parliament, how they deal with the matters, and decide to do what he says we are going to do this to them. So there is a group. Now I don't know what is the group. Is a legal group or illegal group, or is a gang, or who is the we in this context? It's a matter that we can't conclude obviously here. I think we need to report these matters, I think, to the Speaker for the intervention, because I think this attack is not the committee's an institutional one. It's an attack to the institution. That's the first thing I want to just put onto the table, the way I read this thing, because the members that are going to be followed, there's much that is not written which will then be undertaken in terms of this warning. In fact, this is not the first letter. There are a number of other letters which are not read that has been coming from this one person. This one person. And we know who this one person is. We all sitting here, we carry one passport. He doesn't. He carries a couple of passports. We carry only South African passport. We are now told what we must not do and what we must not say here by this person. He's not elected someone. The second thing, Chair, that I want to, I'm really angry with this because, in fact, there is a case to be made on this question. There's simply a case to be made on this question that members find themselves in this situation because of Paul O'Sullivan. So there is a case, and my view is that depending on what the speaker is saying, I think here the law enforcement agency should be able to look at whether this threat, what does it mean? We must either open a case or report this matter to the police for the police to look at it. You know, if this is a company that acts in terms of the law, it means it has registered with the institution that governs the working arrangement of private security companies. About of this particular company, is it a breach of it, or if it is, what that means in terms of this? But this behavior, it is condemned. I think we should condemn it as the members of this committee in the strongest term possible. That this individual has simply just done what is never done. I don't know the people who read which country have ever experienced something like this. For someone just to do this from his home. And I guess it's not only us that are probably under this microscope. But my take is that we need to report to the speaker, we need to report this matter to the police, we must report this matter to PCERA for particular action. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, welcome to Honorable McBride. We're very glad to have you here with us. Welcome to the police. Thank you, sir. Honorable Imam Sheikh.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm not surprised with this email and this intimidation and this harassment. If you remember, Chair, that I have repeatedly said in the House that while we are concentrating on one aspect of state capture pre-1994, and those that were perpetrating, that are continuing up to today. So this really clearly shows to me that there is this other third force which has not stopped from 1994 after having acceded to the liberation of our people and a new democratic government. It's continuing. And this is an ideal example. Now, Chair, for me, I'm not intimidated by what Paul O'Sullivan says. I've come here to do my job without any fear or favor. When we take a decision here, we are taking a decision on the facts before us, on the merits of the matter before us. We've considered all the submissions from all the sides. We're deliberating on the issues, and I think each one has the right to agree, not to agree if we have to. So his intimidation for me, but is not acceptable. But Chair, I want to emphasize on one thing. You cannot allow, and I think you are correct when you say this is not a banana republic, that any individual, when there's an investigation or whatever it is, will come here and intimidate us. I think it needs immediate attention. I think that this matter needs criminal investigation. It needs to be reported to the Speaker. He must be investigated. And all those with him that are attempting to intimidate us from preventing us from performing our duties in an objective manner. Because if we're going to allow this, Chair, we are setting a precedent that every time you don't agree with somebody, we are going to threaten them. But more importantly, where do we go from here? Does it now mean, Chair, that all the members of this committee, that their lives are in danger? there's a risk, there's somebody out there that is wanting to remove them from the face of this earth, if that's the term I should use, because they have a job to do. We are elected by the people. We are here to represent 57.6 million people, and we are supposed to do it to the best of our ability. And that is what we are attempting to do. This is no easy task, but we are doing it with the facts in front of us. Are we saying that if we say McBride must stay, and I'm not saying that's the decision we've taken whether he must stay or not, that we're going to deal with later today, then there's no problem. Is that what we're saying? And forget about everything, that all the facts before us. Forget about everything. So, for me, Chair, number one, criminal investigation, matter must be reported to SAPS. Number two, to the Speaker of Parliament, and this matter must be dealt with urgently. And then you need to look at the issue of security and how serious these threats are. But very importantly, and I think this is a learning exercise for government, because even when we repeatedly say they seem to be ignoring this, there is a third force out there to destabilize and destroy the liberation of South Africa. And we are ignoring this. From 1994, people have not given up, they are continuing. And I think it is time we need to look at that very, very seriously. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, members. Is there any other members? Honorable Marke?
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. I think I support the two previous speakers. But I just wanted to say one thing in my own language. Or Paul O'Sullivan or dialogue. Thank you.
Right. Members, I want that we move to the report, but I'll give Honorable Mabija, if she wants to come in, you're welcome. Any other members? Thank you. I think there's 3 recommendations, and we'll also ask legal services to look at the relevant issues and advise the committee. Thank you very much. Then, honourable members, we then come to the report. Is the draft available? Can we just maybe get available to members? We will then go page per page. Sorry, Chair. Do you think it's possible for us to get copies of those emails or letters? Yeah, no, we'll make it, because it affects all the members, yeah. We will make copies available to all the members. Thank you, Chair. Right, thank you very much, honourable members. You all got copies? So, colleagues, what we will do, our normal process, we will go page per page, and then if there's any suggestions in terms of errors, rectifications, and clarification, we'll deal with it. After we've dealt with the findings, I'll take a break of about 20 minutes for members just to consider it, and then we'll come back for the conclusions and the recommendation. So that's going to be our process. Is that fine? Right, honourable members, let's go to page 1. It is the report by the Portfolio Committee on Police on the referral by the Speaker of the National Assembly on the recommendation by the Minister of Police, Honourable Bheki Cele, dated 5 February 2019, not to renew the employment contract of the Executive Director of IPID. Page 1 deals with the introduction. Colleagues will see the 2 letters that we referred to there that was addressed to the Minister, and then also the letter of the Minister dated 24 January, and then also the letters that went to the Portfolio Committee on Police. So I'll allow members a minute or two just to look at page 1 of if there's anything that we need to address. This may be just in line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the letter of September 2018. I think we must just ensure that the date is included, because it just says letter September 2018. So if we can just go to the original documents and include the specific date of that letter. Colleagues, is page 1 fine otherwise? 1, page 1. Can we move to page 2? Page 2 deals with the issue of the direct referral, the letter of the Speaker, and then again the new letter that was written by the Minister, and then the formal referral by the Speaker of the matter in the NA, ATC, and then also the referral we made to the application in the North Gauteng High Court, and also then the order that was granted. Colleagues, is page 2 fine? We may move to page 3. Page 3 is just a continuation of the order, those 3, 1 and 2. And then, colleagues, it indicates the process that the committee will follow. Is the annexes already available, or will it at the end? At the end. Okay. So, annex B will be the timetable. Yes.
Just see where there's a decent. Whose camera is it? No. Maybe here's fine. Yeah. This one's just, this part of the passage is just better. This is fine, hey? What do you think? They want you to break Hi, Michelle, standing by for you. Palu, and we've got to run back in there. How many seconds?
Between the headlines and the console.
It's certainly taking the temperature up a notch of what's been a fairly heated debate over the past few days as the Police Portfolio Committee, which usually is a very bipartisan committee and tends to not buy into party lines, has been cleaved over the past few days as they draft this report on recommendations as to whether Bheki Cele was correct in not extending unilaterally the contract of Robert McBride as the head of IPID. The chair opened the meeting this morning saying he was very concerned and alarmed at several WhatsApp messages and emails which have been received threatening and intimidating MPs from certain individuals and lobby groups. The implication being from an email read out from one Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, who says he acts for Forensics for Justice, that he intends to conduct a full forensic investigation on all MPs sitting on this committee, as they are, to quote,
So I know it's not always easy, so we're thankful for their contribution. Then we also deal with the appointment letter that was signed, the obligations of that employment letter in terms of the employment contract, the issue of the valid security clearance and a signed performance agreement. Then we also deal on that page with the issue of the performance agreement, and we indicate that only one member of the executive, Honourable former Minister Bheki Cele, entered into a contract with the ED. And then we start at the bottom of page 16 with the issue of performance assessments to indicate that there was no performance assessments was undertaken. Colleagues, anything else on page 16?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Honourable Robert McBride.
No, just for the sake of completion for appointment letter, if you could just insert the date when you say Minister Nati signed this, in front there, the date in the bracket, when was the contract signed for that duration of 5 days, just specifically there.
Thank you very much for that. Other colleagues? Colleagues, anything else? Yes.
Just for a short thing on performance assessment. That last paragraph, the last sentence there, that regular performance assessment, when not done as a norm in the public sector, it's not complete. There were directives. I think we need a short sentence that you can even continue, even though there were directives from the Minister of Public Service and Administration on the 5th of June 2018 for the completion.
Drafting team, you've got that? Thank you.
Thank you,
Robert Lakani, thank you very much for that. Colleagues, that's page 16. Anything there? Then page 17, the committee is on Mula.
Chairperson, on the briefings to the committee, we must add I in the first line. The committee notes that IPID, not PID.
Thank you for that, Honourable Mula. We note that. Yes, on page 17 we deal with the issue of performance assessments, the issues of the audit report, findings, and then also the issue of the performance agreements that was not signed. Then we note also the AGSA reports and notes. Yeah, maybe just the last financial year, maybe in brackets, just to indicate what financial year, because the reader might not know what financial year we are referring to, just for clarity. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, we start by 17, Imam Sheikh.
Chair, I'm not numbered here, so I'm not 100% that I might be taking you forward or backward. But have we come to the issue of the PSC report? It's on that same committee.
That's page 18.
Right?
That's page 18. We'll come to that.
Okay.
I just want to get an indication of honourable members if there's anything on page 17 that needs attention. Honourable Raflakani.
Chair, on the briefing to the committee, particularly the high-profile cases, I thought that the specific wording that we also used yesterday was that those report, we acknowledge receiving them, but we haven't yet seen any convictions. There was no yet conviction reported on those high-profile cases. Because I think there was a long discussion about the report equaling a performance. And I think in the discussion we said no, that the report did not necessarily equal conviction, because the conviction still has to happen. So I think just to add a short sentence there, so you don't have to make a full stop, make a comma, and just continue to say that the conviction is yet to be reported, because we don't know what the conviction.
Right, we get that. Drafters, thank you. Then 17, is there anything else? Then we go to page 18, and I think that is where Honourable Imam Sheikh raised his hand. You're welcome, sir.
Yeah.
On the PSC report, thank you. And then Honourable.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. What I find is, if we're talking particularly about the Public Service Commission, the Minister highlighted the report of the Public Service Commission in finding the ED, his performance being highly irregular in transferring the employee and things. Should we not also mention here that the ED, despite getting that response of the Minister, did not respond to that. He only responded to the Public Service Commission investigation on him. But he has not responded to why he did, even though given the opportunity, why he forcefully attempted to remove this person and the findings of that Public Service Commission.
Yeah. Yesterday, I don't think you were there yesterday. We received additional information that dealt with that issue. So I think that's covered there. But thank you for raising that. Thank you. Drafters, do you agree? Right. Colleagues, we're still on page 18, PSC report. Yes, Honourable, sorry.
On the security clearance debate, when was lapsed? In November, what is it? Just
Right, thank you for that, Honourable, that we just indicate exactly the precise date of the lapsing of the security clearance. Thank you. Then we move to page 19. I think maybe 14 can just move to the top of the page, the heading. But I mean, it might still change because of the addition of those 1 or 2 paragraphs at the beginning. Then page 19, colleagues, they deal with the relationship of the Minister and the ED, that it's governed by the IPID Act and the Public Service Act and the applicable regulations. And then also the issues, the status of the IPID. Then the committee makes a finding that the trust relationship between the Minister and the ED is clearly broken down. And then there's also a statement of the breakdown in trust. And then we also refer to the public protector investigation. Yes, Honourable Imam Sheikh.
Chair, we talk about the trust and we're talking about the relationship between the Minister and the ED. But we're not highlighting the relationship between the ED and other members of his team and the staff. You know, and the environment under which some of them are working on the complaint that they've lodged, they went to Public Service Commission and all these things. So should we not add on that the trust?
Remember, we indicated previously to the complaints that is before the PP, but we from our side don't want to make comprehensive and authoritative view on it, because we are awaiting the outcome of that. So I think that was the general consensus yesterday, that we don't want to make any, clear statements if there is not a final report to deal with. So that was the view. But please, other members are welcome to come in. Yes.
Can I just follow on the Chair? Even though the Public Service Commission investigated this matter and found what happened was absolutely irregular, and had even advised or instructed the Minister to deal with the matter and stop the harassment and things, are we still saying that one expects that to be a conducive environment for them to work with the others, given the recommendations made by the Public Service Commission?
Yeah. Remember, on page 18, we deal with the PSC report. So if you feel that there needs additions, you maybe go back there. But here we only deal with the public protector investigation. That's still underway. And we don't believe it would be appropriate to make any findings before we get that report. Yes, Honourable Robert McBride.
Chair, maybe just to go back to Honourable Imam there, is that perhaps, Chair, we could add on 13. I note we're mentioning on paragraph 1 the constitutional provision. I think there was also something in that Public Service Commission, the issue about Harassment Act. There was something about Harassment Act that was also equally violated. If we could include that, then we would take care of that particular point, because in fact yesterday we said we stay close to the findings and then we try to use that. So you'll see it when you read it, the number Harassment Act, and then you go on to explain what that means, and intimidation. So if you could just maybe, not long, because I know we don't have not long, just really a concise sentence that reflects what is contained in the Public Service Commission.
Will that assist Honourable Imam Sheikh? That suggestion, Honourable. Thank you, Honourable Kani. Thank you, drafting team. Colleagues, we're back to page 9. I just want to make sure, we're still on page 19. As I've indicated, the public protector investigation, and then the independence of IPID. And then also the committee recognizes the instances of litigation to defend the independence of IPID. Colleagues, is there anything else on page 19? Maybe on page 19 there's 2 full stops under paragraph 15 between the 2. Just maybe delete one. Colleagues, anything else on 19? Then we move to page 20.
Yeah.
Yes, Honourable Imam Sheikh.
It goes from 19 to 20, the last paragraph, so that's why I waited until 20. It talks about the independence of the IPID, and it talks about the role of the minister, and the operational decisions cannot be interfered with. Should we not, in that, elaborate on the fact that while the minister cannot interfere into those investigations, but in terms of the act, you have to report to somebody, and in this case you are reporting to the minister.
I think maybe what we can do there, because I think it's maybe a lacuna, that we just briefly maybe refer to those 2 clauses in the IPID Act, or 3 clauses where in terms of criminal investigations as well as disciplinary investigations, there should be monthly reports be forwarded by the ED to the minister. And I think there's maybe one other case as well, that we just bring that nexus. I think that will maybe assist you. That there is, apart from the Public Service Commission and the regulations, it's also in the IPID Act clearly stated duties in terms of the relationship between the executive authority, the minister and the accounting officer. So that is quite important. So if we can just, maybe just quote those specific instances in the IPID Act. Thank you. Thank you for that, Honourable Imam Sheikh. Honourable Ramtuka, is Honourable Mula.
Thank you, Chairperson. On the findings, 1A, the the contract of employment entered into between the minister and the IPID was for a period of 5 years and was entered into on the 1st of March 2014. They said in March, there's no 1st of March.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We just do that. And then under current political context, maybe just that full stop there to delete and just bring that sentence to the start of the margin. Thank you.
Are we on 20, Chair?
We are on 20. Thank you very much.
Chair, yeah, with your permission, Chair. On current political context, now, the committee observed the important role of IPID in combating corruption by members of the SAPS without fear and favor. I'm not sure whether we should add, and it is for that reason, I don't know if we're going to have that on the finding, and it is for that reason that the committee is of the view, or the committee takes into consideration the current circumstances. Or you think we're going to deal with that on the findings? Because what I'm trying to get at there, Chair, is that we know the political situation, we know the serious challenges of combating corruption and things. And it is for that reason we want to ensure that when we perform or we appoint somebody or extend, that particular person, there is no allegations or, we want somebody that's there, that is independent, that is objective, that is going to go and do the job to his or her best ability without any hindrances or clouds hanging over them and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's the appropriate place or whether we, findings, if we can have to.
Yeah, there was a long discussion on that point yesterday and various views from the role players. But let's give Honorable Kakani also maybe just come in. Thank you for that. Appreciate it.
There was a debate yesterday, but perhaps, Chair, maybe in taking into account the point, what we could then say, that first sentence, we can add a second sentence. On the political context, we can add a second sentence that read maybe like this, that the committee recognizes the current commission set up by the President to combat corruption in the country, and will committee support those processes because we are also fighting corruption. Something like that, I think we can add onto the paragraph.
Thank you for that. Honorable Sheikh, is that going to address your...
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for the contribution. We appreciate it. Colleagues, then we deal with the issue of the case law that we just take note of in terms of the contract, the 7 years issue that was also raised. Colleagues, then, in terms of findings, I think Honourable Mula already raised the issue of the date of March 2014 that the draft just include. And the first 4 paragraphs on the finding is the committee's views on the minister's reasons and the ED response, where the committee agrees that in terms of the 5 years contract, the issue of the no proper consultation in terms of the Swahatse clearance, and then the failure on both of the minister and the ED to sign a performance agreement as well as performance assessments, and also then the PSC investigation with regard to the applicable policies. Yes, Honourable Imam Sheikh.
Thank you, Chair. On findings, it is common cause that the contract of employment entered into between the minister and the ED IPID was for a period of 5 years, was entered into that, expires on that. Should we not add on to that with no prescriptive conditions for renewal, or that the contract provides just for that one term? Because, Chair, the reason why I'm thinking in that direction is that not the reason why the minister had not written at all? Because he knows, listen, your contract is coming to an end on 28th of February, finish it.
Yeah, your dilemma is, Honourable Sheikh, sorry to intervene, is that clause in the IPID Act that says it might be renewable for another term. That creates the dualistic view. But let's give the members opportunity.
But can I add, Chair? I think we must be very clear. The Act provides for a renewal. If we choose to renew, we are covered by the Act. But the Act does not say you must renew. In fact, the contract must be guided by the Act. The contract is not prescriptive. It's not saying that I'm giving you 5 years and you can or you will maybe extend it for a period or whatever it is. In terms of the contract before us, all it says is it ends on the 28th of February and has made no provision. If we decide to renew, we are within the Act, because the Act is providing for a renewal. But the Act is not telling this you, or it's not an accepted fact that because the Act is saying that you can renew it, that we must go that route. We should actually be first looking at the contract before us. And in line of what the contract says, whether we are in breach or not. And we are clearly not in breach even if you don't renew it, or if you renew it, we are not in breach. So I think what is important for me, Chair, is that, because my argument is, you know you are starting work on a certain date, you are finishing on a certain date. And on every agreement that I've had a privy to, with nothing to do with this, it always says, you may renew your contract, you may extend your lease, it may do this and that. On the contrary, I would say that this contract is prescriptive. It's actually saying and giving you no provision for extension. It's going to end on the 28th of February, finished. So I feel that it is very important to mention that this contract is specific. It starts there and it ends there. And for that reason, Minister thought, you know your contract is coming to an end, so why do I need to inform you? But I only replied because you forced it down my throat. You told me you want to know, so I wrote to you. That's my argument there, Chair. So,
yeah, I think at the next page, maybe it's just in a discussion, but the next page might be discussed when we deal with the IPID Act. But I'll give members an opportunity to come in on this. Honourable Robert McBride. Thank you, Honourable Sheikh.
No, Chair, I think I hear the Honourable Sheikh, the point that he is making. The contract that is under discussion, which was the question that was asked by ED, had a start and end. There was no provision for renewability. So, in other words, the minister could have said, I'm not renewing in terms of the contract, because the debate was about the contract. Then the ED may have responded to say, no, but the Act says that it's renewable. I want to enter into that discussion. Could have said that. But for the purpose of this discussion that we're having, we're dealing with a contract which did not have a provision for renewability. It was a fixed term contract for 5 years. However, we must also recognize that in reading the IPID Act, there is a provision for renewability, which is the one that now brings a two-sided table for parties to discuss if the party wants to renew. But the IPID Act does not tell what is the activator, what is the mechanism to activate the renewability. Is it from one party or is it from both parties? So I think the dilemma we're sitting with is to make the interpretation around all of that. That is why we then said an IPID, that certain alignment is required to make the process much more clearer going forward. But for purpose of what Imam was saying here, I think on A, it is correct that that contract started and is ending today. That's a 5-year term contract. So unless we want to say Imam want to make another provision, but the facts are as it stands. The contract under dispute is ending today. That is why we were given this tempting to speak now on the basis of the Act, whether we are going to that particular route.
Can I do a follow-up? Sorry.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not disputing that, but remember, Chair, these contracts are also prepared by legal experts. They know the IPID Act. They would have clearly had to comply with the IPID Act, which is what they did. Now, the question is, why did they decide not to specify in that contract that you can't extend it? Now, my understanding of it is this. They wanted to be specific. You have a 5-year term contract, finished, it's done and gone. But should we decide after 5 years with the prerogative solely in the hands of SAPS or on the portfolio committee to extend, then you are covered by the Act. But in entering into that agreement originally, there was no discussion, no provision for any extension whatsoever. Let us separate the two things with the Act. The Act is there. We have a contract that we are worrying about now. It's the contract we're dealing with. So for me, I think, really, yeah.
Maybe to deal with this issue and assist you, because I'm also looking at the time, is maybe to bring another sentence just to indicate that there was no provision in the contract for extension.
Yes.
Would that suffice? Just to that factual statement?
That's fine.
Is that fine? Thank you, colleagues. So we on page 20. Is there anything else on page 20? Then let's go to page 21, where there's findings that there is a breakdown in the trust relationship between the Minister and the ED from IPID, the failure in terms of the directives, and also the allegations regarding... Yes, Honourable Mamula.
On G, the allegations by Mr. Kabinde, which are subject of further investigation by the public protector, are concerning and very serious. What about the other allegations that he paid himself 100,000? Why we didn't put it here?
No, remember, remember that is also part of the PP. That's also been referred to, as far as I can remember.
Yes, it's only, but I said why we didn't write all of them here.
No, it's early in the report. If you go back to, let's go back.
Yeah, I saw it there at the back at the stakeholders' submissions. But in our
no, if you go to page 8, Honourable Member, you will see under Minister's reasons.
Yes,
it's
I saw it.
there.
Yeah, I saw it, Chairperson. But what I'm asking, why we didn't put it that is the findings, the committee findings, because here is the minister's reasons, and us we find all these things.
Yeah, no. Remember, Honourable Member, we can't make findings on where we have got no proof by those independent institutions. That's why we refrain from that. That is still allegations. That's before the PP. So we can't take that on face value as facts, unfortunately.
Okay.
Or fortunately, whatever you do. We can't do it. Honourable, yes.
No, I think, Chair, I'm covered. I'm covered because I think this point links to the detailed observation earlier. So I'm covered with the explanation.
Right, colleagues, anything else on page 21?
Chair.
Yes. Yes, Honourable Ramatlakani, and then Honourable Imam Sheikh.
Perhaps maybe just for the drafters of the report, when they speak, maybe somewhere in the Act at the beginning, if we speak about IPID Act, can you write it in full what this IPID Act is? You know, the title of it, that IPID Act, so you know exactly which law you're referring to.
Yeah, I think maybe to the first reference in the report, maybe just to indicate that in the year after referred to as IPID Act, otherwise it's going to take quite long. Thank you for that. Honourable Imam Sheikh, thank you.
Yeah, Chair, under findings, one thing I don't see here, which actually will help to actually make a decision here. Remember, Chair, a lot of the emphasis was on the minister not having the right to have written those letters and taking the unilateral decision. Now, are we not finding that indeed the minister only responded in the findings, only responded? Because the truth is the minister chose not to respond because it's a contract. The minister then responded only on pressure from the ED. Should we not say that in terms of our findings, we found that the minister, because what happened here, Chair, is the ED, whether it's, well, in my view it's deliberate, did not advise us or advise even the court until very great into the court matter itself, that indeed his argument was the minister had no right to write this letter and take this decision. What he did not at any time do is tell us that he wrote to the minister ignored it, he wrote again to the minister, pressurized him to comment, and then the minister said, I'm not intending to extend your contract. So I think it should be under findings fully, I don't know.
Maybe if you go, the content advisor just drew my attention to it. If you go to page 13 there at the bottom.
Page?
13 at the bottom, Minister's reasons, where it says, further, the committee further notes that the minister in his letter, in the letter dated 16 January 2019, was in essence responding to the ED's letter of September and November 2019 by the ED, whereby he inquired about the renewal or non-renewal of his contract. So I don't know whether that could assist, or do you need a separate finding on the Ramlakani?
No, Chair, I think for the Imam's point is that that's an observation. There is no findings. In the public view, there's a view that says minister went rogue by just simply writing this letter. So what he is suggesting is that actually we could have maybe under the section that deals with the contract, the finding, simple finding, which says we found that the process of discussion emanated from the letter of the ED of September and November, and the minister subsequent response on the, was it in 16? I think that's a finding. It's a concrete thing that actually happened. It will cover that.
Right, thank you. Will that assist? Drafters, you've got that? Thank you. Right, colleagues, we're back to page, I think, 22, 21. 21. We deal with the IPID Act, the appointment letter, the AG reports.
Chair.
Yes. Honourable Member.
I'm not there, but I think generally there was that from all the...
Okay, can you maybe just...
yeah. Chair, let us be clear, the Act is not clear. There are a lot of grey areas there for us. But now, I'm looking at our findings, what we have found, and this is one of the things that I have found. And I think we all, maybe all of us did in terms of what I heard in the delivery. That whilst the minister may not have the ultimate, be the last line of making this decision, of not renewing it or renewing this contract, what we cannot distance ourselves from is that the minister has an interest in everything to do without interfering in investigations and things with IPID. And as such, the minister can, and in this case, advise ED and the committee, which is what is done, that I'm not intending to do. So he has a role to play by virtue of being an interested party. Because everything to do with the ED's work involves the ministry. And you can't run away from that fact. So maybe in these findings we have to spell that out, Chair.
Maybe the next page, under 10.
Okay.
If you can just maybe look there, Executive Authority Officer, we say the committee finds that the IPID is a government department and must report to the minister. there are obligations and duties of the ED which are clearly set out in the regulatory framework.
Yeah, Chair, but don't we want to just add there that whilst we have that, and that because despite that being there, and we are saying that, the ED is basically in ABC language telling us that the minister's got nothing to do with me or anything of that sort. Now, I don't know if the sentence is clear or whether we should just, spell it out a little bit to say that whilst we are admitting that it's a government department and should we not spell out that the ED has a responsibility to report to the minister, communicate with the minister, and by virtue, in other words, of his letters, he accepts that, he understands that. He implicated himself by doing that. But conveniently then chooses to say, hold on, let's look at it differently, Chair. If the minister decided I'm going to extend your contract, we wouldn't be sitting here. Yeah. I can assure you. We wouldn't be sitting. So, you know where I'm getting to, Chair. I just wanted to so that we could just make it clear that there is a reporting structure that it's not entirely independent to the extent that it functions on its own. It's interdependent with the ministry itself.
No, I think in the report there is reference that it's indeed not a Chapter 9 institution. There is that dual role. We're taking in consideration the Constitutional Court judgment in terms of the disciplinary steps and the applicability of those regulations on the ED, but there is, in a certain sense, IPID is a government department. It's got a budget vote in the national estimates,
Yes.
and all the employees of IPID is under the Public Service Act. So there is a strong linkage to that. But let's hear from Honourable Robert McBride. Thank you.
Honourable Chair, I think maybe we can just add and strengthen 10 to accommodate the point that Imam is raising. I think on 10, after government department, you can insert the words that goes like, in terms of the current IPID Act. So we're explaining that it's a government department, and the Act is clear. And then we add another sentence that says, in terms of Section 7, in terms of the responsibility of the current IPID Act, the ED is obligated to report to the minister on a regular interval, because that's what the Act says. So that will then take care of that point that has been raised.
Thank you very much. Will that assist? Drafters, do you got that? Thank you. We're still on page 22. Is there anything? 21, sorry, apologies. 21. You can go ahead. Thank you, Honourable Member.
3A, it says that the appointee, not the appointment letter. They said we must add meant, appointment.
Thank you very much, Honourable Mula.
Chair,
Yes.
on the same A, I want to suggest that you add, after performance agreement, you just add 2 words, detailing KPIs. Key performance area, other words.
Thank you. Colleagues, anything else on 21? Can we move to page 22? Honourable Magula.
Number 8, on security clearance, the second sentence, we must delete one lapsed, and we put the date, 30 November 2018.
Thank you very much. This may be just under 9B, there's a full stop before the ED IPID. Is there anything else, colleagues, on page 22? 22. Anything else?
Talking about the irregularities, the conduct. Is there any way where we speaking about we find that the security clearance that was illegally stripped down, there's an order for it to be reinstated? This is now so hard a matter. The Public Service Commission does direct as such.
Page 22, I think.
Yeah, 9C. It says the IPID irregularly withdrew the security clearance of Ms. Swatsi and that this irregular conduct is in the process of being remedied by the relevant state agency. Yes, Honourable Sheikh.
Thank you, Chair. I want to go on page 23 to item 7, application for SAPS posts. Now, Chair, the ED applied for these jobs. These jobs in any event was going to start on the 1st of April. And a very important point here is this, that I'm told that in one of them I think he was shortlisted and the other he was not. Now, why do you apply for a job? Because you're going for better prospects, your contract coming to an end, you're unhappy, you're getting more money, various reasons. But whatever it is, let us be honest, it can't be you're passionate about where you are and what you're doing because you are looking at others in any event. Now, he applied for this job, he was going to get this job on the 1st of April. If he did get the job, what happens to IPID? And the reason why I'm saying this is, Chair, that in our deliberations, we found that an impression was created that IPID can't function without the ED. It will come to a standstill. Now, he's applied for these jobs, so what happens if he got the job? It clearly means IPID won't come to a standstill because somebody else will do the job. So, I don't know if, in terms of our findings, if we could just, elaborate on that or cover it in some way that he's applied for other jobs, which we're going to start in any event on the 1st of April. And if his contract was extended, it takes away the argument. If his contract was extended, he had already applied for the job, he was going to start with those jobs. If he got the job, the extension to his contract for him was of no consequence, but in his argument, it's going to affect the running of IPID. So it's clearly, it's misleading as far as I'm concerned. So I don't know the draft of how we could just, I don't know, I can be guided by our colleagues.
Right, Honourable Robert McBride, possible solution there?
We could try and add something that could be possible to accommodate the position. I think on that second last sentence where it ends with the contract still in place, so we don't end the sentence there. You then continue the sentence with something like for which the consequences could have been leaving the post in the middle of the contract. Because if he was going to be appointed, he simply was going to take a next job. So the consequence of which could have left the contract incomplete, in the middle of it.
I just wanted to hold.
Please, Honourable.
Yeah, I agree with my colleague, but I think what I'm saying here is this. What we need to add here is this, that he applied for these jobs, which is clear there. Had he received the jobs, IPID would have continued functioning normally. That's what I'm interested in, because had he left, we would have appointed somebody else and continued operating normally. And that is what I think the point I'm trying to get is just that whether the ED leaves or does not leave, IPID will be able to continue functioning normally. Because in his argument, he said it won't function. So I just want to say that had this happened, IPID would have gone through the normal processes of advertising, employing somebody, and it would have continued.
Honorable Markey and then Honorable Robert McBride, I think, Honorable Sheikh.
Chairperson, is that not an observation? If we would put it in the observation, not in the findings.
Yeah. Let's put it in observation. Thank you for that. That solves that problem. Thank you. Colleagues, anything else on page 22? Right. We dealt with the report then. Remember, colleagues, yesterday, I don't know whether it's been added out, or maybe I should do it. Is the suggestions from Honorable Mbele. Remember Honorable Mbele, I think Honorable Kolobane indicated they in the DA caucus at this stage, so they're not with us, but let us then remember in terms of recommendations, there was yesterday a list of issues. Honorable Mbele indicated that he also wants to be included in the report. It deals with the IPID Amendment Act, the appointment letter, performance agreements, application of SAPS posts, security clearance, the EDAO governance and relationship, as well as the public protector investigation. So those issues are, it's forward-looking issues, I think members indicated yesterday. So we said we will today make a determination. Should it be part of this report? Should it maybe part of another report? Should it be included as an annexure to the legacy report? So let's just get views on it. Honourable Markey and then Honourable Rabnakani. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Seeing that some of the recommendations will need some amendments to some acts and so on, I think it belongs to our, we call it a legacy report or something, that can be taken over to the 6th Parliament, unlike in here. So we include this in there, but not in this report. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Rabnakani.
I agree that the scope of the report doesn't quite give us latitude to raise some of these issues. So for the issues to be alive, to be considered, maybe if we were to take this resolution that you rather bring an extra to the legacy report, which contained this recommendation for the 6th Parliament to consider together with a number of things. You remember that even the IPID is part of our legacy report, the IPID Act as it currently stands. So this issue will fit in there. So we don't throw them away, we put them into a living document that's going to be picked up by the 6th Parliament.
Yes, Honourable, you're welcome. Honourable Mambi.
Thank you very much. I also feel that we need to appreciate the recommendations brought here to the Portfolio Committee, but I don't think these ones were really the scope of work that the committee was supposed to deal with. Therefore, they may be used or useful in the future during the amendment of the Act and so on. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable.
Thank you, Chair. I don't want to labor much on this, but I think it's not the appropriate platform for this. We welcome any recommendation, but there's some of these that need deliberation, but I think they are covered here and there. However, we will deal with it at the appropriate time and the appropriate platform, but not for this.
Thank you very much. I just want to get an indication from the Secretariat. Do we've got this venue on until 12:30? Secretariat?
Yes.
And then the alternative venue is E249.
No, we don't have this venue. The venue is E249. The alternative would be coming to room, but E249 is available.
Is E249 available? Okay. So members, what we're going to do now, because we must now come to the conclusions. We have dealt now with the report, we dealt with observations and the findings. So we need 4, 5, 6 or 7, depending on the members, a conclusion on the report and then the recommendation. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave this venue and then reconvene on the other side at about 12:30. Or also allow some tea time for members. I don't know, is there tea now available? 20 past 12. Okay, let's maybe, So let's try and reconvene 22.1 in E249, and then members must come with concrete proposals in terms of conclusions and also recommendation. So 22.4